So everyone's doing like end of the year wrap-ups, I guess, and I have not been talking about books for a very long time. I just want to talk about some recent reads plus what I'm currently reading, because that is what I know how to do and what is most recently on my mind. I have pretty much exclusively been reading audiobooks with trickling in a few things on my Kindle. I'm pretty much exclusively reading from the Libby app, which is an app that my library collaborates with. So I'm essentially getting free audiobooks and free books on my Kindle, which is beautiful, and it's also what I have time for right now. I'm getting a really decent amount of reading done. It's all audiobooks because my commute has become an hour and 15 minutes to 2 hours there and back every day. So it is really quality audiobook time. And then like right before I go to bed, I'll like scroll through my Kindle app and I'll just read a few pages of whatever I'm currently reading. So I usually get through about like 2 books at a time, which is very nice. So I kind of just want to look through that app and tell you the books that I have been listening to recently, because I listened to some pretty good ones. Most of these books I have read in December, though some of them were in late November. But I guess the first one that I'll go to is Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory. Jasmine Guillory's books are so good. They're all contemporary fiction romances, and they all have strong female characters that are just so well written. They feel very realistic. All the relationships feel very realistic, and the Royal Holiday is like number 4 in a series from The Wedding Date, and you don't have to read these books in a row. I've read them like completely out of order. They just all have the same characters in them, so each one follows like a different main character, but that main character is going to be in another one of those stories. If you have not read Jasmine Guillory's books, highly recommend. I pretty much listened to all of them on audiobook, and they are so good, and the narrator is so good, and I love them so much. They're exactly what I wanted Get a Life Chloe Brown to be. Everybody loved Get a Life Chloe Brown. I did not like Get a Life Chloe Brown. I thought that both of the main characters were so extremely frustrating, and in all of Jasmine Guillory's books, like both the female and the male characters I think are so well done in every single one of her books, and all of the problems are very realistic, even though most of them are usually just like, just communicate with each other and everything will be fine. I can understand why both characters are frustrated, and I just really like them. I think they're really cute. This one had to do with an older couple. It was the girl Maddie from another one of the stories, her mom, that gets into a romantic relationship, and it takes place overseas as well, so that added a nice little touch, and it was around Christmas time. So this was a very good one to read. I think I gave it 3 stars. A lot of her other books I gave 4 stars, so it wasn't my favorite, but it was still good. Would recommend her books in general. A lot of these are like contemporary romances because they're just something fun to listen to in the car. So another one that I have was Loathe at First Sight, which is something that I heard Bookables talk about, so then I got the audiobook for it, and it was a good one. Very glad that I picked it up. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is by Suzanne Park, and it's about this girl Melody Jew, and she just started up at a video game company. She's a producer there, and her CEO and everybody around her just does not know how to talk to a female within their realm. She ends up being a producer for the game that is pretty much going to save the company if it does well. So there's a lot of pressure on her, but it also puts her in a position that people undermine her more in. And it was really interesting seeing the power dynamic of her being a female within that realm. I don't want to say that I can relate, because I feel like this was a very dramatized version of what generally happens in real life, but it does happen. So it's something that's very relatable. I really liked her as a character. I liked that there was a slight romance, but that it wasn't a huge factor within the book. I liked it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I would recommend it. The next one that I read was You Deserve Each Other, and this book I also gave 4 stars. It's by Sarah Hogle, and this is about a couple that's been dating for like a year and a half. They're engaged and they're waiting on their wedding, and they're trying to figure out like a wedding date, and they're waiting to send out their cards because they're both not really feeling it anymore, and they both know that they're both not feeling it anymore, but neither of them wants to end it. They're both trying to get on each other's nerves as much as possible because they don't want to be the specific person to end it. So they're going back and forth, and again, this just feels like a very relatable and realistic read, maybe just a dramatized version of it, but it was so nice seeing a couple of a year and a half and just showing the tweaks and the downfalls, but also showing like quirks. There was a lot of nice, fun, genuine sparks of moments there that were really nice, that you're like, oh, they're gonna remember that forever. But then there were also times that were like really cruel, and you were like, oh, I could see that happening as well. It's just like no relationship is ever perfect, and the fact that this one wasn't necessarily romanticized, so good. Like, I really enjoyed it because it was very refreshing to see. The next one that I read, this is when I started delving into like my actual bookshelves, and I was like, what books am I not reading right now physically that I can actually read via audiobook, via Libby for free, and then I can actually know that I read something that's on my shelf. So the first one that I read was The Loneliest Girl in the Universe, which I actually got for Christmas last year, and now I finally read it. This was a good audiobook. I enjoyed it a lot. I really liked the narrator. I've been liking audiobooks a lot because once you hear the narrator's voice and you like enjoy the voice, I feel like it's almost like a podcast where you could listen to it for hours and hours and hours. And then if I enjoy the narrator, I'll search for the narrator in the Libby app, and I'll look at more of those books to read because I know that I already enjoy the narrator. So that's been a good way to look at different books to read as well. So The Loneliest Girl in the Universe is like one of the only science fiction-y books that I've read this year, and it's about this girl who has never been on Earth. She was literally born in space. Both of her parents are astronauts, and then they both died, and she became the only person on this ship. And her like only mission in life is to get this ship to safety. Since she's been alone on this ship, since her parents died, she was obviously very lonely. She used to get communications from Earth, but now they're few and far in between. And then she gets a communication that there's another ship that's going to be meeting her very soon. So she's going to like meet her first person that she would have ever known other than her parents. So it's really interesting. It is thrilling. I really enjoyed it. There are some parts that were like a little cringy, but in a good way, where it didn't feel necessarily young adult because it felt very like powerful, and there were a lot of like crazy things going on. And I think it packed more of a punch than it would have if I read it physically. So if you have the chance to read it via audiobook, I would definitely recommend it. The audiobook was also very dramatic. Like, the narrator was very, very good at dramatizing the parts that needed dramatizing. Next, I listened to Girls of July, which is a young adult book about a few girls that come from different places in the States, and then they end up coming together because of this ad for an upstate New York cabin for the summer. And all of them are really just looking to escape from their lives because they have different things going on, and they spend the summer in this house together. And the description is very Girls of the Traveling Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, that's what it's called. I had never personally read that book. I think I watched the movie forever ago, but I think that is a really good description. You go back and forth between everybody's perspectives, and everybody has a very different personality, and you become invested in all of the characters. I really enjoyed it, especially being from New York. They spoke a lot about Long Island, which is specifically where I am, but I've been upstate New York, you know, just to like relax in a cabin sort of situation. So it was very reminiscent, and I liked it a lot. It was good. Definitely would recommend that one as well. I gave that one 4 stars. The Loneliest Girl in the Universe, I believe I gave 4 stars as well. So far these are all like 3 and 4 star books. Loneliest Girl of the Universe, I didn't even write. We'll say I gave this one 4 stars. Girls of July, I also gave 4 stars. Watch Over Me, I gave 5 stars, which I have a whole review on that one, so I will leave that link down below. But this book was so good. It just really helped me with my journey, my mental health journey. It's truly a wonderful book. It is about this girl, Mina, who has been in the foster care system and has had a social worker assigned to her since she was 13. Her mom left her. She never knew her dad. She's had a very dark past, and now that she is 18, she was offered a position at a farm to be an intern there and to help teach some of the kids that have been adopted over there. So she gets her own little log cabin, she teaches a group of kids, she does chores around the house, and that's basically her job. But that's a nice alternative where she's like almost adopted with this family. There are some quirks about the farm. For example, there are ghosts on that farm. Everybody can see ghosts. And it's essentially everybody has their own ghost and everybody has their own demons to sift through. I delve into it more in my review. I gave it 5 stars. It was lovely. And then the next book that I listened to after that is another book that I have a physical copy of that I wanted to read through, and that was Severance. And Severance was a book that was like 2020 in a nutshell, essentially. There's this virus going around called the Shen fever, and this girl who is our main character, she works in publishing in New York City, and she's in this new job and she's just working day to day and going throughout her days, and like she hears mentions of the Shen fever, but it's not something that she's like really paying attention to. And then one day she realizes that New York City is deserted and she's one of the only people left. And it goes back and forth between the aftermath of the Shen fever and what's going on with her. And then it also goes back to present day New York City and what's going on with the Shen fever. So it's really interesting. It had me pretty hooked. There were some times where I would be listening to it and I would be like, do all these details really need to be in here? But it was literary fiction and it was very weird and I liked it. So 4 stars on that one, and very reminiscent of what is happening currently. So take that with what you will. If you would want to read something like that right now because you think it's very relevant, do it. If you don't want to because it gives you anxiety, here is your warning. Have I read anything since then? I don't think so. I think we're up to my current reads. So right now I am listening to an audiobook on my commute, and I am also reading through something on my Kindle. The book that I'm currently listening to is The Trouble with Hating You. It's about a girl named Leah who is of Indian heritage, and her parents are trying to find her a suitor, and she doesn't want a suitor. She doesn't know if she wants to get married. She's very successful in her job and she does very well for herself, judging on the amount that she spends on clothes and shoes, and she lives a very frivolous life, and she's doing that for herself. She lives on her own, like she's very independent. She does not want to get married right now, but her parents are trying to find her a suitor. She does not get along with her dad at all. She loves her mom to death and has a very hard time saying no to her. In like the very first chapter, they try to set her up with this guy named Jay, I believe. Jay seems weird. I don't know about him yet. I know that inevitably he's gonna be the guy that she falls for on her own, as opposed to being this suitor. Like, it's in the stars. There's no surprises within this. It's just a cute contemporary. I don't know about his character yet. I hope that he becomes more likable. I really like Leah so far, so I hope it continues that way and that Jay becomes better. And then the other book that I'm reading on my Kindle now is One by One by Ruth Ware, which no one seems to like. I hope that I end up enjoying it a little bit. I don't anticipate giving it more than like 3 stars. I never give Ruth Ware books more than 3 stars, but like I wanted the aesthetic of this book right now because it takes place in ski Alps in the snow, something like that. It takes place in a ski resort. A bunch of people from this company called Snoop, which is like an app where you can snoop into other people's music that they're listening to. All of those people that are in that company went to the ski resort. And apparently only like 4 of them make it out. There was like 9 of them, and 4 of them are injured and 5 of them are left dead. That's literally in like the first chapter. So right now I'm literally just getting into like they're all entering the cabin, and we'll see how it goes. But that's what I have recently read and what I'm currently reading. I would love to know what you have recently read. Please give me suggestions, and that's it. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week, and I probably won't see you until the new year. So I hope you have a happy holiday and a happy new year. Maybe tell me your goals too. Tell me your goals so I can set my own goals, because I don't really, my reading has been so much different now than it ever has been. I never read audiobooks ever. This is a whole new world for me, but so far I'm enjoying it, and I love the fact that I can still read. Lovely newfound time that I have. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.